Here is our next Q&A session. Very good questions as usual. Keep them coming. Please email us more questions at wespenreproductions@gmail.com. Note, we have made some minor changes in spelling and grammar errors in some of the questions for the sake of convenience. Question: if every perceived image is projected beyond us, and that it produces a current that transmits it indefinitely, the person sees waves of propagation and follows the formation of an image. The clairvoyant sees a mass of glowing substance of fluid current. So any person who forms a thought and someone else more or less sees this far away. So, if this is the case, and these images are projections, our brain does function as both transmitter and receiver. In other words, everything we see is our projection. But doesn't that mean that we see and interact with others and their projections as well, because we are all the same human soul group? Answer: good question. The answer we have is yes. We project pictures, words and thoughts outwards every moment of the day. Normally, all thoughts that have ever been thought are stored in what we call the fifth dimension, realizing that numbering the dimensions is just for convenience. But this human soul group doesn't have much access to this thought depository, because we are contained as a soul group inside the grid. Thus, the thoughts we're thinking and the pictures we're projecting at the most part stay within the grid to be recycled over and over. This is ingenious from the overlord's perspective, because we're very limited in our thinking and our projection, and they can easily manipulate our limited thought process. However, people who are waking up also become more in touch with other dimensions, and we start thinking and projecting outside the box. We can download ideas, thoughts and imagery from the higher dimension and spread them among the human mass consciousness. And these thoughts, etc., now become available to those who are still only operating within the matrix. Those who are then about to awaken can receive and ponder those higher dimensional thoughts, and in turn start connecting to the higher dimensions as well. This is what the awakening is mainly about. And yes, we are projecting and receiving each other's images and thoughts inside the grid. How many images and thoughts are genuinely ours, and how many do we pick up from others, unbeknownst to us, thinking they are our genuine pictures and thoughts? Question: in one of your latest videos you mentioned that Earth is in Orion. I can't quite put my finger on how that could be. Could you please elaborate? Answer: yes, we're already in the Orion Empire. When the Queen started this experiment, she chose a solar system that belonged to the Orion Empire, which is the solar system in which we live. Then the invaders took over, and Enki created a copy of the original solar system, but location-wise, Earth is still in Orion. So when you exit the grid and get to the other side, you are already in Orion. Your choice is whether you want to explore the universe around you by yourself out of curiosity, or think yourself to the gates of the Orion court, where you can be briefed and educated on your new situation. You can always explore first and go to the court later if you wish. Question: you said that emotions are unique to humans. Does it mean that after exiting the matrix we wouldn't be able to feel emotions? Answer: it is our understanding that the wide range of emotions are embedded in our unique human souls, the emotional body. It stems from the Queen's spirit, and we are her children, souls. We carry them with us. Our emotions are a part of the original experiment. We are supposed to get a wider perspective and a deeper understanding because of them. and then we will use what we've experienced with our emotional selves when we start our tasks as creator gods in the calm. Question. The question I have involves the bloodlines. You mention bloodlines frequently, and I think I remember you saying that the person would know if they were part of these bloodlines. How would they know if they are not a member of the elite? As I have Rh negative blood, which also seems to be a blood type shared by many members of the elite and royalty, such as the Bushes and the British royal family, I have a niggling worry that the bloodlines you reference are somehow linked to the Rh negative factor. Would you have time to share what information you have about this subject? Answer. This is something many people ponder. We have not researched blood types very thoroughly, but what we know is that the gods provided us with different blood types for possessive purposes. Different human subgroups were assigned different tasks. Therefore we have black, red, white and yellow-skinned people. It's because the gods can keep better track of us and who belongs to which group. That's why the Hebrews/Jews are circumcised, and at that time being God's chosen people. It's just so Yahweh could keep track of them and claim them. Blood types fall into this category as well. We do not know what tasks were assigned to tribes with different blood types, however. Regarding the elite, yes, it's our understanding that many of them are Rh negative. However, that doesn't mean that regular people who are Rh negative are part of the elite. Question. If this event that people are talking about actually happens, the so-called cabal appear to be defeated, suppressed technology is released, the secret space program is revealed, we colonize the solar system more, and otherwise enter into a golden age, what are we to do? Is it just another trick of Enki and Marduk to further enslave us? Do we still plan to leave the Matrix? How should we, as aware human beings, respond to such a potential event? There is no event, the answer is, like people are talking about right now. This event scenario seems to be a program inserted into the collective for awakening humans to follow. We are noticing that this hype seems to come around every 3 years with identical narratives. As far as we can trace back in modern times, event propaganda began sometime around 2009. It was repeated in 2012, 2015 and now 2018. We suspect it may be some type of loop. What is the reason for this? We are working on figuring that out right now. This will be published in a future article video. If all or some of what you mentioned in your question actually would happen as a part of the agenda, I would suggest not to participate in any of it. It is all trickery. All roads lead to Rome, a term we keep using for a reason. This means all roads lead to either Enki or Marduk. In our opinion, the only workable choice for those who want to avoid future manipulation here is to go through the grid. If there are other workable options, we are unaware of them, but don't fall for any agenda. We suggest playing it safe. Go through the grid. Question. What do you think about chakra removal in order to move faster in our spiritual life? George Cavasilas and Carla Fox, an energetic healer and shaman woman, are very convinced about the effectivity. It's said that we are controlled by the chakras and are connected to Saturn and his 7 rings, and from where we are injected with not so nice stuff. If that is true, what about all the other chakras? What's your opinion? Answer. We cannot remove our chakras. They are an integral part of the artificial soul complex that we are placed within when we incarnate here. Yes, these chakras are like energy portals that give and receive energy. We can keep them closed, however, and it is our opinion that we should. Chakras can be envisioned as holes in our soul, like Swiss cheese. that keeps us interacting with this matrix through the artificial soul. The original soul can be envisioned as having two of these portals, one at the top of the head and one at the bottom of the feet. Energy comes in and goes out through the head from the universe, central fire that supplies our life force energy, as well to and from the earth under our feet. It should be a continuous and uninterrupted flow of energy that links us to the planet as well as the cosmos. We, humans, are severely disconnected, however, and our energy is being accessed from outside of us through the false soul chakra system. Question. One of my favorite subjects of study is the Who's Who game, which I have been researching a lot, and specifically archangels. Because you specify a lot Archangel Michael being Ninurta and Count Enlil first in command, who would be Gabriel and Raphael, so popular in the Bible as well, or Uriel, popular in Enoch, or others like Jophiel in the context of Sumerian deities or lower cap G gods. Answer. The archangels is an interesting subject. There are real archangels operating in the Ka, and we believe they are 12 in number, because 12 is the main number in the Queen's universe, where she is number 13. The only two real archangels we know about for sure are Michael, Ninurta and Lucifer, although that's not his name. We don't know his archangelic name. If anyone does, please write in the comment section. All archangels in the Ka are constructed in a slightly different manner than other star beings, created directly from the void, as we've been told by one of my anonymous sources. The Queen created them, but not in the ordinary way. Each archangel is assigned a specific tasks. Michael, for example, is a warrior and the defender of the Orion Empire, while Lucifer was made to become a scientist and a creator god. Ironically, he was denied this by the Queen, and Michael was given that role instead. That became the beginning of Lucifer's rebellion. Then we have the false archangels that we know about here on Earth. They are often addressed in New Age communities as being channeled, etc. These archangels are the 9 masters of light in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. They mainly dwell in the halls of Amenti, in the underworld. We humans call them by the names you mention in your question, but that's not the real names. The real names are mentioned in the tablets. We know that Thoth is Gabriel, but at this time we don't know who the rest represent. We also believe that one false archangel, such as Thoth/Gabriel, can also take on the persona of any other archangel when they appear in visions and in channeling. Question. How do we know that you are not conscious or unconsciously working for the AIF, as you call them? Answer. You don't. And of course, it wouldn't matter how much we try to convince people that we are not working for the AIF. It's still up to each person who receives our information to use their discernment. Question 1. The first. What is the real story about the moon landing back in July 1969? I've heard it was a hoax, naturally. However, I also heard we had been to the moon years before 1969, and this was just a simulation, a la a Hollywood movie set. Hell, we live in a frigging simulation, so what's another simulation to BS the world? I saw the movie First Man, and I was amazed at how they quickly showed the moon landing and that whole Apollo 11 mission. It seemed a bit rushed. If you've seen the film, you likely know what I mean. Answer. We do not have an answer for this. Whether this occurred the way we were told, or if something different happened that was hidden from humanity, we feel it does not affect our expansion or intentions for what we want to achieve here. For us it seems a distraction and something for people to argue about. We won't participate in that. There are a few great researchers who have tried to answer this question though. One we can suggest is Dave McGovern, who unfortunately is now deceased. His website is now being maintained by his daughter and worth checking out for those who are interested in this topic. https centerforinformedamerica.com. Question 2. My final question relates to the flat earth theory. That one can really confuse the daylights out of someone. At first I really brought into the flat earth hype until someone I follow on YouTube who has a lot of knowledge, and he was the one who introduced me to the flat earth, then did 180 and said it was a disinformation campaign. What is the real story? I sure would like to know, and all I want is the truth, and yes, I can handle it. Answer. The same answer for the moon also applies to this question. We do not know whether the earth is a sphere, flat, oblong or square. Maybe it is all these things, depending on the observer. We do not feel this is of any concern and just a distraction to divide humans into opposing and very emotionally reactive groups, who then put their focus and energy into things that do not really matter. Whatever the answer to this might be, it does not have any effect on what we should be doing and achieving here. Yes, it seems like a distraction. Questions. Question 1. Looking at how you have been extremely useful in brilliantly unveiling the truth, and how some of us have almost miraculously awakened to this truth, is this by chance, or we have a mission control somewhere? Can we say we have all acted all by ourselves? Answer. We hope we interpret your question correctly. Nothing is really by chance, and this alludes to the answer to the first question in this Q&A session. One by one, we're breaking through the veil grid and get access to higher dimensional data, which we then download and interpret. Then we share this with others who are receptive enough to be able to receive it. Thus, higher truths spread. To counteract this, to some degree, the AIF and the government use channeling and other methods to mix these truths with disinformation, and you'll get division within the truth movement. Question 2. Are there people who have escaped through the grid and reported back in some ways that led to the revelation of how was the grid spotted? Answer. I, Wes, can only speak for myself. I first got the information about the grid from someone not from here, but someone from the car. If someone has exited the grid, they would most likely not return. There is too much of a risk to being stuck here again. Question 3. Now that you have acknowledged that the human soul group cannot make it as a group with the singularity fast approaching, are the AIF not hoping we continue to stay around for as long as possible till we are locked in the forever living body? Answer. The alien invader force, AIF, is divided into at least 2 sections, as it seems. One section wants us to wake up, Enki's section, while the other section wants us to remain asleep to be prepared for the singularity, Marduk's section. Enki wants the enlightened ones considering us as his children. There appears to be a deal between father and son, Enki and Marduk, where Enki gets the awakened ones and Marduk gets the rest. It's almost as a sort of peace agreement between father and son. Thus we are allowed to wake up, but within limits. We will expand on this in a future video. Question 4. How true or feasible is the following? That there are human souls on the astral dimension who may have read the WPP and therefore steer clear of the tunnel, but who continue to delay their exit and escape through the grid for the purpose of functioning as spirit guides for people on the physical plane and for new arrivals of discarnates. Answer. We can't exclude the possibility that there are those who would do that. But if they do, they haven't completely understood our material. Lingering in the astral is not a good option. The AIF are smart, and they know how to manipulate these souls to stay and trick them to, unbeknownst to these souls, return in a new incarnation. We emphasize, go through the grid immediately, or the chances to exit diminish considerably. Question 5. I am asking you, Wes, if you have the ability to astral project or at least remote view. Answer. No, I can't consciously do any of the two yet. Why? Because I haven't had the time to practice. All my effort has gone to research and the release of the material that's now in public domain. Both remote viewing and astral travel require a lot of practice for most people, including me. Question. I am so happy and honored to find you on your website. I guess my question is how this, below attached link, man claims ring true to you, especially regarding to that our soul has two parts and that Enki captured the soul and forever changes. The author is Corey Figura. We'll be happy to answer any specific questions people might have regarding what other researchers have concluded to the best of our ability. But we simply don't have the time to read websites or listen to videos in order to answer questions in this video series. So feel free to ask again, but please give us specific questions without us having to research the researchers. Question 1. In the WPP you referenced James Casbolt. I am wondering if you also did any research on Max Spears. His life and connections, struggles with recovery from MK Ultra and subsequent death beg truthful answers. Please lend him an ear, and if you have the time, email your thoughts. Here is a link of an interview with James, aka Michael Prince, and Max. Answer. It is my impression that Max Spears, when not acting out on his MK Ultra programming, was doing his best to reveal the truth, as we knew it. It also seems obvious, at least to me, that he had to pay the price for this. He had to pay with his life. James Casbolt, on the other hand, I believe, acted and reacted mainly out of his programming. Unless he is released now, he is in jail for blackmail. Question 2. Oh, one more request please. Would you possibly consider extending Q&A to 30 minutes? 15 minutes goes by so fast. I know you are so busy, so understood if you can't. Answer. It's thanks to you and this particular request we decided to extend the length of our Q&A videos. Question 1. Free will. I can see that people have some free will, mostly because AIF sort of seeks our approval on things. But then on the other hand, I don't see how people have free will when, i.e., they get killed. For example, Native Americans got killed and I am sure it wasn't their free will. I understand that somebody's free will is to kill Native Americans, but Native Americans' free will is not to be killed. What determines whose free will gets to be executed? Answer. Free will is not about approval, it's about choice. We all have choices here. Some choices will lead to good results and some will lead to bad. We think there may be some confusion between free will and intentions within your question. We are sure it was not the Native Americans' intention to be killed. However, they made their choices based on free will that led them to them being in that situation where they were killed. As we move through life, we set intentions for ourselves. When faced with decisions, we should be making those decisions in alignment with our intentions. The opportunity to make those choices is free will. Let's give another example with this. It is not our intention to have our home invaded and possibly hurt in the process. However, our choices to move to this specific town, live in this specific house, be home on this specific day were choices we made that unfortunately aligned with the possibility of this scenario playing out. Also, we need to remember that we bring ourselves closer to these types of scenarios with our own vibration. If we are fearful, we are more likely to encounter or engage in situations that make us fearful. There are situations where the abuse of people is an agenda, like with Adolf Hitler, Pol Pot and Idi Amin. For an entire population to be susceptible to an angry dictator would be to first decrease the frequency of the general population into apathy, e.g. by including inflation and depression. Because apathy is lower on the emotional scale than anger, the manipulated population will therefore listen to an angry dictator. Such events, however, create generational trauma that is passed down and implemented into the collective consciousness of a group of people. We recognize that it is very likely that the killing and oppression of the Native American populations were part of an agenda like this. The Native Americans and other native land tribes were very spiritual and powerful as a collective, with the ability to influence the mass consciousness on the planet and maintain their connection to the planet through nature and the animals. They also possessed a very long oral history that, in some cases, told the truth of our history on the planet. Question 2. In one of our previous videos you mentioned that men create on the outside, that they need tools to create and women create on the inside. Can you please elaborate more on how men and women create? I mean, the only way I see women create on the inside is when they make an offspring. How else do women create? I did notice that the majority of today's world, civilization, technology, etc., predominantly come from men. I am guessing here it is because it comes from AIF, who are males, and they work predominantly through human men, not women, to create. I'm a bit puzzled with the whole creation process. Answer. This is a misunderstanding. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to clarify this for others who may have a similar misunderstanding. When we refer to masculine and feminine energy, we were not talking about genders, man and woman. We were talking about two types of energy, and most of us have both of these types of energy within us. One being very creative, nurturing, and moving in circles, feminine. The other being very practical, goal-oriented, and moving forward in a straight line, masculine. Both men and women can have each of these types of energies, with one usually being more pronounced or dominant. There exist many men who have a predominance of feminine, creative, and nurturing energy, while there are also many women who are very practical, determined, and goal-oriented. It doesn't matter which sex your body is, we can have both, and often do. It is true that we live in a dominantly masculine reality, patriarchy, but this is intended to erase and manipulate our memory that our universe is feminine in nature, and for the promotion of a male god. It suits the AIF to have us believe that men are the dominant force on the planet because they need us to worship a male god. Allowing the planet to embrace or acknowledge the true power of feminine energy as God would not be allowed. How do we create on the inside? In our minds with our imagination. The imagination is a quality of feminine energy. Again, it's nothing to do with being a man or a woman. We hope this makes more sense. Question 1. I've been reading articles and watching videos over the years about our birth certificates being traded on the New York Stock Exchange by the elite. They say our birth certificates are worth a lot of money, something like $3 billion. Of course, there are those who say we can cash out our birth certificates. For a price, Agarty, for a price. A famous line from the movie Casablanca. What have you heard about this, Wes and Ariel? Answer. Yes, we've heard about this and other things related to it. Most of the rumors about things such as this are a minefield of legalities that would put people in prison if they try to manipulate the money changers in this way. We suggest that no one engage in activities such as this. Question 2. This has been a burning question for me since the start of my spiritual path in the mid-1980s. They say to listen to your first instinct. Sometimes I have and was indeed correct. Other times I have been incorrect too. What happens if you have your authentic soul and artificial soul battling within your mind, which has been the case for me and still comes up every now and then? How can you tell the authentic soul from the artificial one? In other words, how can you choose the right answer when these two souls are conflicting with each other? Answer: good question. This is exactly the dilemma we humans have had since we were captured here. It's part of the conflict inside that we've been mentioning in previous videos. For the average person, there is almost no way to know. They are operating too much from the artificial soul to even have an inkling of what is what. The only way to distinguish between the two is to learn more about your true self. How? By continue what you're doing. Research, meditate, practice what you've learned, and learn to recognize your true self versus your false self. After a while, it becomes more obvious. However, so long as we do have an artificial soul, we will make mistakes here and there. Also, set an intention for your life. How do you want to live? What do you want? What kind of person would you like to be, and what kind of people would you like to have in your life? Think about these things. Create it in your mind. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Now that you have done this, you have just created this as a possible life for yourself. It now exists. From this point on, focus on this life. When making decisions, ask yourself which choice aligns more with the intention you have set for yourself. Make your decisions based on that and trust the process. It doesn't mean it always will be smooth sailing, but if you trust the process, we can guarantee that the choices you are making are getting you on the life path that you have just created. Sometimes it takes small changes, and sometimes it takes very big changes to achieve this. Those big changes can be a little rocky because it is moving you onto a life path that is so far different from the one you are on, and a big move is needed. Hang in there, keep working on yourself, loving yourself, and doing what is best for you. Then watch how your life begins to change. People move in and people move out. Fears get exposed, relationships devolve and evolve. Opportunities begin to present themselves, all in accordance with your intentions. One way to be sure that you are operating through the artificial soul and not the authentic one is if you make a decision based on fear. Really look at why you are making a decision, especially if it is not something you know you really want. Usually this is fear-based decision and not an authentic one. Good luck.